Liz Fingleton from Obeo, welcome to IrishStartupTV.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
So the first thing I noticed is we're in a lovely old Georgian building in Dublin.
Yes, on James's Street. So we're part of the National College of Art and Design, and we've just moved into this annex down on James's Street, so we're really near Diageo actually. So we have the Guinness Gate right outside our office. It's quite a nice Dublin scene to be coming to work in every day.
Lovely. So tell us a little bit about Obeo.
So Obeo, basically our aim is to create ethical and convenient household products and make sustainable living accessible to everybody. So our first product focuses on food waste. So we came up with the idea for a compostable food waste box that you basically pop up in your kitchen countertop, fill up with food waste over 2 or 3 days, and then when it's full, you just close the lid and throw it straight into the brown bin. So it means there's no mess to clean up in the kitchen, you actually have a fresher brown bin, and there's no smells, no mess, no fuss. So it literally takes all the yuck out of food waste recycling. And I know it might just look like a normal paper bag, I'll show you here. But actually it's made from wet strength certified compostable materials. So it actually holds all the wet food waste in and it doesn't smell at all. So it's not just a normal paper bag, it's really strong and actually is a lot better than the bioplastic liners that people are using at the moment. So we think we've come up with a really simple but clever solution to all your food waste issues.
Right, it doesn't leak at the bottom. I see it's quite rigid and it's kind of got a cardboardy feel to it almost.
Yeah, so basically we have a compostable brown paper liner. So it's craft paper, it's recycled materials, but it's actually treated to be wet strength, so it won't actually leak or tear when there's wet food waste in it. Obviously it's not waterproof, so you can't put a pint of water in it, but it's water resistant. And then the outer layer actually gives it its structure, so it's surrounded by FSC certified card, which is also certified compostable. So it just means it's a really neat solution. It's instead of the plastic caddies and the bioplastic liners that people are using at the moment, because through our research we found that customers just find they leak and they tear, and then you're left with this horrible bin juice at the bottom of your bin that you have to wash out. So just people gave up using their brown bin altogether. Whereas with this, you literally pop it on your countertop and you don't need that kitchen bin anymore, and the whole thing goes straight into the brown bin when it's full. So it really is just like a 3-step process: fill it, close it, throw it in the brown bin, and people actually have responded really well to it.
Super. And what kind of foods can you put in it? Is it the same kind of foods you can put typically in a brown bin, so meat that's uncooked or...? Exactly.
So we have a full list on the back of everything that can go into it. So it's basically anything food related. So veg peelings, fruit peelings, raw meat, cooked meat, eggshells, even kitchen paper that's compostable. So all of that can go in there. So basically, if you have a compost heap at home, you'd be used to just putting veg peelings and fruit peelings in it, but the beauty of the brown bin is because it's going to industrial compost facility, it's actually going to be heated up almost like pasteurized, which means you can put raw and cooked meats into your brown bin, and that's what a lot of people don't know. So you actually...
Yeah, because you can't put raw meat, you can't put any kind of meat, cooked or raw, actually into your compost.
Into a compost in the garden, exactly. That's the beauty of the brown bin. So you actually have so little waste going into your black bin once you start using your brown bin. So it's really interesting because that's the heaviest weight, so you can actually save money on your bin charges by using the brown bin over the black bin. And that's why the government's introduced these new household food waste regulations, which are coming into effect in July 2016, which means we're all going to have a brown bin, we're all going to have to use it, or else there's going to be penalties put on householders. So first of all, it's the responsibility of the actual waste collectors to provide you with a brown bin, and then it's your responsibility as a householder to use the brown bin. So it's quite an exciting time for us because we actually have the product on the market ready for these regulations that are coming in.
I love this because you're ahead of a regulation, because we're seeing with things like Uber in the US, and fixed parking was a great example, how the city of San Francisco said, no, we're going to shut you down. So this is the opposite of this. Yeah. You're not afraid of the regulators, you're actually embracing the regulation.
Exactly, like we knew this was coming. It's coming from a European directive, which is the landfill directive. So every European country has to start diverting food waste from landfill. So Ireland's actually been quite good in that they introduced the household food waste regulations, I think it was March 2013, and they've been rolling them out to cities ever since, but now it's gotten down to the stage where even smaller towns around Ireland has to be provided with a brown bin. So we're really at the stage where everyone in the country is going to have one. You might still meet people in, say, city centre apartments who don't have brown bins yet, and they are kind of saying, we really want them, but the waste collectors are a little bit slow in actually providing the apartments with brown bins. So that's the next thing that's going to have to be solved in the next 6 months, you know.
That's incredible. So what inspired this then? Was it a function of, you mentioned the EU directive? Were you looking for an EU directive to solve? Were you looking for a new idea?
We're not that clever. No, basically it was my business partner Kate Cronin. She's a product designer and she was doing a master's in sustainable design in NCAD, And she started looking at the whole area of recycling in general because she was trying to come up with a new product made out of recycled materials. But then her search and her research actually brought her to the area of food waste because she realised, you know, 2 out of 3 households weren't using their brown bins properly. And she was thinking, well, why is this? Because you can save money, it's better for the environment. What's stopping people? And we realised it was actually the yuck factors in the kitchen stopping people recycling their food waste. So then she started coming up with concepts of how you could actually take all the mess and the smells away. And as you can see behind me, it started with like ideas for a bioplastic.
So this is the iteration of Obeo.
And it started, you know, with this nice little handbag shape box, which was bioplastic lined, and it just turned out to be way too expensive to produce. And then we went through loads of different variations, and we realised we needed to make it kind of the minimum viable product of what actually functions, what looks nice, and what the customer can actually afford to pay. So we ended up with this, which
this guy.
Yeah, which was basically sold in a pack of 5 for $3.85, and we started selling in Dunnes and Super Value then about 1.5 years ago, and we're in 200 stores around Ireland at the moment. Okay. And then we realised that to actually sell it cheaper to the customer again, we can actually sell online. So we set up a subscription service, which means you can get 30 individual boxes delivered to your door for €20 every 3 months. So it's actually cheaper than in the shops. And people have responded really well to that, which is funny because no one would think of buying their waste bin bags online, you know?
But yeah, but it's a no-brainer. And how often then do one of these guys last for? I suppose it's a function of your waste.
Yeah, and a function of how many people live in the house and how much fresh cooking you do. But through our research, we found that, say, a household of 3 or 4 people would use one every 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
So if you're a big family, we developed an actual larger box, which is just about to launch on the market in early 2016. But normal size families will get 2 to 3 days out of our original Obeo box.
So you're like a SaaS model. Amazing. Waste as a service.
Exactly. Well, basically that's what we started looking at, because we don't just want to be seen as a paper bag company. Yeah. We're actually like looking at the SaaS model for inspiration, in that if we can get, you know, people on subscription basis, we have recurring revenue, and then basically launch a whole range of products within the ethical household space, and actually become, you know, the convenient ethical household product company like Honest.com in the US. They deliver ethical nappies to you know, thousands of customers across the US, and it's such a huge growing area. And there's, you know, the Dollar Shave Club are delivering razors by the week to men across the States. So we're really looking at those models to actually emulate.
And what about your own background? Were you a product designer as well?
No, it was a very random meeting. I was an accountant with KPMG, and basically when I qualified and left, I was thinking I really want a career change. I was looking for something a bit more creative, and I really wanted to get into something environmental. So then I had a really chance encounter with Kate, and she showed me the idea for Obeo, which was literally a sketch on a piece of paper, and I thought, oh, I like this, you know, I think it has huge potential. And we worked on it, researched it over 2 years, and we got Enterprise Ireland funding actually. So we had a commercialisation grant through the National College of Art and Design. So basically that allowed us to do all the research, all the prototyping, and then bring it to market. So it was a brilliant support from Enterprise Ireland there.
So you had a couple of kind of critical success factors. You had an EU regulation.
Yes.
You had a product manager. You had a business person.
Yeah.
And you also had some support, because we're in a building that's owned by, leased.
Yeah.
You explained, by NCAD. So how important was the university to helping you to go
I
ahead?
think it was fundamental. Like, as a product startup, it is very hard to get off the ground without some sort of funding in place, because you've got massive production runs. We did invest our own savings into the first production run, but without the funding to actually do the research, to do all the actual testing of the product, we actually, I don't think, would exist without NCD support and Enterprise Ireland support. So then the great thing was, once we actually incorporated as a company and launched on the market, we were able to apply for the Competitive Start Fund with Enterprise Ireland. So we ended up getting that, third time lucky on that.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you think, why was it that you weren't lucky the first time around?
I think it was because we hadn't launched on the market. So basically we were going, we have an idea. And then once we actually got the contract with Dunnes, they saw it had potential, and then we got the money, which, you know,
50k
for 10% equity.
For that type of business at that stage must have been a huge amount of money as well.
Yeah, and, you know, people would say, oh, it's a lot of equity to give up, but I was saying, we need the money at this stage. It's worth it, you know.
It's convertible though.
Well, they actually take the equity at the very start.
But if you wanted to buy back that equity?
Yeah, That's true. And also, if we become HPSU, which we're looking at now, they only take a max of 10% equity. So I think it is worth it in the long run.
Okay.
And you have all the, the mentor support, and you have that kind of back and forth, and you get to pitch in front of investor panels. So I think it's a no-brainer. It's really good.
So maybe the money is great, but maybe it's the process that's more important of getting involved with EI for the network and the opportunities they're in.
Definitely. Like we, in our first year, maybe 6 months after launching, we got to pitch at the Big Ideas Day, which was basically a huge event in the convention centre, and they brought loads of angel investors and VCs from across the country into one place, and we were pitching to them. So we're still actually in talks with investors we met back then. Right. So without Enterprise Ireland doing that, we would kind of be at a loss for...
Gives you a spotlight, yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
And tell us, how did you get into Dunnes Stores? Did you join a type of food academy? Like I got Super Value have a food academy?
Yeah, and that's an amazing initiative, but unfortunately we're not food, so we didn't fit the bill for that.
Food waste?
Yeah, I tried, Richard.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed in, and basically I think we got lucky in a way. We called the Dunnes buyer, found out his name, he said he liked the email with the image, so let's set up a meeting. And then we went into the meeting thinking, we'll try get a 10-store trial out of them.
Where were you at this stage?
I think we were about maybe this one.
Really? Okay.
So we didn't have the product produced or anything. Okay. We were production run, and he really liked it. He saw the EU regulations were coming in. He said that it was the best product he'd seen out of all the products he was researching in terms of bioplastic or paper. And he said, we'll put you nationwide tomorrow.
Amazing.
And I said, we're not ready yet, so just give us time. So that was great, and basically it took us another 6 months to get to market, but luckily we had that contract in place, so we knew, and then we got all the kind of the credibility that brings and the support that brings, so it worked out well.
It's extraordinary. Wow. So where to next? It sounds like you've had quite an amazing 18 months to date.
Yeah, it was very fast moving, but we really have our sights set in the UK at the moment. So they're big into their brown bins as well, but they have the same issues that we have here.
Because to bring that back, it's an EU-wide thing.
Exactly. So it's EU regulations, so they have to comply as well. And we really find that there's 12 million brown bin users in the UK compared to 500,000 brown bin users in Ireland. So it's such a huge market. We're actually looking to target the UK via the online subscription model first. So we think it's an easier route to actually target our niche of people, because we know who the profile of our customer is now, and we know what they read, what blogs they go onto. So we can actually now put a digital marketing strategy in place to target those people and sell online to the UK. So that's all guns blazing for UK online sales.
It's very much a function of marketing, because you've got a really nice little product and it's really neat, but it's about just getting it out in front of people. Yeah,
and explaining it to people, because it is a new concept and people kind of go, is it a caddy, is it a liner? But it's actually both, it's a standalone bin for your kitchen. So I think all that education, and also the education of why should I use my brown bin. I don't think there's enough being done, say from a governmental point of view in terms of educating people, because when I meet people and talk about the product, they go, I never knew I was getting a brown bin. So there is still a lack of knowledge. And that exists in the UK as well. So there's great organisations over there like WRAP, which is the Waste Resources Action Plan, and they actually fund initiatives like Love Food, Hate Waste, which is a huge marketing campaign all over the UK. So we will try and piggyback on those kind of campaigns and get free samples into people's hands so they can actually use the product and see the benefits of it at home.
It's a really nice way of doing business. Like I come from a background where we grew a SaaS model, and I think it's a lot nicer to educate people and to help people, and HubSpot are a great example as well. This concept of inbound marketing where you're very much becoming an educator, and then the product is there. Exactly. Rather than forcing a product on people. I think it's a really nice approach, and it's very much on par as well with your sustainable roots.
Yeah, and I really think you do have to have kind of the customer in mind this whole time, and kind of meet them on their level of, well, look, we can't just force this on you. You have to know that you have the problem first of all, so know that you're going to have to start using the brown bin, know that this is actually the easiest way of doing it to get away from all the mess and smells. So I do think it's a lot of content generation that we're doing with our own blog, with partnering with other bloggers in the UK, running competitions with people, and also getting other brands on board. So trying to partner with bigger brands that kind of are in the realm of food waste. Even like Food Cloud, we're going to guest blog on their blog and all that, and kind of piggyback on some of their campaigns. So
the awesome ladies that are just down the road a little bit.
They're only down the road, and they're doing great work.
And actually, on that note, how far away do you feel? Because sometimes I think people think in Dublin that James's Gate and Docklands, it's like crossing the Sahara Desert. How accessible do you think it is?
Oh no, I feel very connected to it all, and I suppose it's probably from doing like accelerator programs, and you meet so many different startups and you feel like you're part of the community. But also I think it's up to the startup themselves to stay connected and go to different events, and I think there's huge networking opportunities, especially with, say, Niamh Bushnell and all the startup commissioner, the things that are happening at the moment. And even just around Web Summit, you know, there's so many events that people will be going to. I don't think it matters where your office is based, because you're always going to be at the same things anyway.
Just get out and mill around the place.
Yeah.
Super. Okay. Well, Liz, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much, Richard.
Thanks very much for chatting with us, and I'm excited to see how the UK rollout goes over the next 18 months. Thanks
for having me, Richard. And I'd just say at the end that if anyone wants to check out our product, they can just go on our website. We are Obeo. That's obeo.com. So we are obeo.com, and we've loads of great deals for our subscription customers, and they can check that out. Thanks. We are obeo.com. Thanks so much, Liz. Thank you. Thanks, Richard.